Observing Myself as a Critical Reader, English 201, Intro to Literature, by Hunter Adams. How I Understand the Reader Response Theory. In one of the first documents in the course, we got the reader response theory described to us. Essentially, the reader response theory is based on the transactional relationship between the reader and the text. This relationship is very dependent on give and take. Basically, the reader gets whatever they put into a story, and the story gives out whatever the reader is willing to give. The reader is the one that determines the worth of the story, not the text, because the reader is the one that has the perspective on what is being told to them. Using this idea really helped with my understanding of the things they carried. When I read the things they carried, we had to fill out the reader response theory sheet. And the questions that I wrote were like, how much of O'Brien is actually based off of the author? How many years after the author was there was this written? And they just help with getting a better understanding of what's going on in the story. And when you think about questions, it helps you get more out of the story because you're thinking about the story more, which means you're going to get more out of it. Reading strategies. In order to really understand the reading strategies, we have to think of the idea within the context of reader response. My examples are for the story Cathedral. Rereading the text and taking the reading slow and steady and going back for a second look really helped me with reading Cathedral. I was able to more understand the story and able to kind of take more out of it by reading it a second time. Then, actively reading the story also helped me because making sure you understand what you're reading and not just looking at the words is very important. Because if you're reading a story and you have to write about it, or you have to analyze it, or even if you're just in life and you have to kind of read something that's sent out to you and you still have to analyze it and understand, and not just look at the words that are on the page. So when I read the text, I read it one time all the way through, then I reread it a second time slower and actively read, taking notes and making points about the important things that the story was trying to give out so that I could get more out of the story. For digital tools, I liked the Twitter SlideShare, private journals, and Flipgrids. I thought the Twitter SlideShare was definitely my favorite because I thought it was very interesting how you get to see other people's accounts and see what they pick out, not just what the account is putting out there, but what they pick out. And it helps you understand not only the accounts and literature as a whole, but also your classmates, even though we're through an online course. In my opinion, I thought the Flipgrids also helped because the Flipgrids allowed us to make videos, which is the closest face-to-face contact that we have as this is an online course. For outside connections, critical thinking within literature is very analytical, and critical thinking within life is very abstract. So, if the two connect with each other, it allows for a lot better thinking and a different kind of process. If you take this literature class and you allow yourself to think critically, then it's going to help you with your thinking in life and help you be more mindful and understand more of what's going on around you. For my own personal challenge, I thought for myself the reading of the war poetry was difficult. Not necessarily the writing part where we had to write our own poem, but just reading the other poems and kind of having to understand them because it's not really within my genre of what I like to read or what I am interested in. But I was able to overcome this using one of the reading strategies. When I reread some of the war poetry that we had to look at, I was able to better understand it and get kind of a second look so that I could actually kind of put things through instead of just reading it through and kind of being like, oh, this isn't something I like to read. I might as well just read it quickly. But if you reread it a second time, it helps you understand and helps you do better on the assignment. My most memorable experience was probably the Twitter posts because, like I said, looking at others and even my own selections, it really brings a different viewpoint into the literature class as a whole and allows for you to think in different ways and understand what's going on in your course more. Continuously looking at an account can also help because it allows you to keep up with something and see the different posts that they post. For example, my account was mostly based about not necessarily books in themselves, but they did have some like top 10 lists. But but they also had how books relate to our lives, and they had a lot of pictures that were kind of surrounding books and movies and all that kind of stuff and how it affects us. My aha moment for this course was probably when we read Cathedral. At first, I didn't really understand what was going on, and it was probably because I didn't think it was within my style of what I like to read. But once I read it a second time and took notes on it, I kind of understood it, and I kind of got the message that it was sending out because I put in the extra effort. So I was able to take that from the story. And once I did that, I realized it was actually within my genre of reading.